like, if you think about it, right? If you really think about what I mentioned about the travel and what, like, the auditing took a lot out of me, right? Because I'm gone every week, right? You're flying. Like, I have yet to spend all the hotel points that I got from that. Because, like, every week you're literally flying.
So was that the last audit
No,
for you? Because
no.
you said, I
Then what? I'm done.
Anymore.
No. I think my last one was Oklahoma. I was like, I went to Tornado Valley. We went to Oklahoma. Now it's like, all right, yeah.
Okay.
Prison is kind of, it's a prison, right? So it's kind of like, what you learn like over a period of time. Like, once again, I just said I wanted to have impact, right? And that's not kind of the impact. That's great. You can rely on the government financial statements, and that's great. But that's also, I think from a perspective of like, I like to have fun. It's nothing fun about a prison, so it doesn't fit my. Yeah, I was like, all right, I'm done. This will make me gloomy, and so I was like, all right, I'm.
Wow. Yeah. Well, but at least you now you have a lot of stories to share about it. What you did.
Yeah. That's always a good conversation starter. I'm like, yeah, I've been to prison. They're like, what? So, yeah, everybody starts grabbing their purses and everything. I'm like, relax. Nobody's gonna die today.
Yeah. Well, you may need to give more context instead of just
No, you just got to give them that up first. You just want to see who's going to be like, okay, who's going to kind of,
see the first reaction.
Yeah. You gotta let it marinate on them for a second.
Oh my God, I'm glad you did not tell me that when you met me.
It's like, I've been a prisoner, right? And look, 3 years. Did almost 3 years.
Why are you standing here?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so funny. I love that experience. That's how we have this funny conversation to the audience. So after you left that audit experience and then you moved to work at Bureau of Economic Analysis for about 2 years.
Yeah. That was my career vacation. Yeah.
Career vacation. Tell me about that company.
Yeah. So it's the Bureau of Economic Analysis, right? Called BEA. I call it the Bureau of Economists and Accountants because that's all that works there. And, after, like, if you think about it, right? If you really think about what I mentioned about the travel and what, like, the auditing took a lot out of me, right? Because I'm gone every week, right? You're flying. Like, I have yet to spend all the hotel points that I got from that. Because, like, every week you're literally flying, and it was draining. So I went to the BEA, and I got to focus, get back to what I want to do, which was analyzing financial statements. And I analyzed financial statements for domestic entities. I worked on direct investment abroad. So that's basically focusing on the foreign entities of domestic companies, where I basically, if you had subsidiaries in foreign countries that were, you actually have to report those financials to the Bureau of Economic Analysis through some type of survey type form, but it's pretty much a full blown financial statements you got to review. And that's how they come up with, that's how we come up with the GDP and all that. That stuff gets poured into this agency. It gets reviewed by accountants to kind of say, hey, this doesn't tie out, etc. And what you're doing is normalizing the financials to make sure that when the data, these actual economic indicators go out, they're actually right. And it was a little bit less intense, but it was really cool because I got to, like, I saw the recession kind of coming. I used to look at bank. My seg was like bank and tech. So I analyzed subsidiaries for banks in their foreign entities. So you could see, like, these large banks with trillions and trillions in derivatives in some other country and stuff like that, as well as you can start to see how people were doing. I mean, you're a tax person, how they were running, because to do their tax strategy, the Dutch strategy, whatever, they had to have a foreign subsidiary somewhere, right? So you could see how it was kind of happening because they had to report all of those entities. So it gave you a good context for where that. And then, Rosey, I think you're on mute. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. So at the same time, when you start looking at this position, you also start your firm, the W2 Group.
Yeah, it was just Jay Wilson CPA at the time. I just was like, okay, let me start. I had another mentor from college, Joe Lanciano, and he was a tax guy. And I just wanted to. Lanciano sold me a dream. He told me I could make, at the time, mind you, I could make six figures. I just wanted six figures and to do tax returns. That's all I ever. I started this all to just make 100,000 and do. All I wanted to do was 200 tax returns to be done. How I ended up here is a whole nother. I don't know how, but so I started doing taxes. Like doing friends, family, and just just started from there. I was like, I'm gonna practice a little bit. The agency didn't have a problem with it because it had nothing to do with work, and I just wanted to kind of dip my hand in a bit. I wouldn't say entrepreneurship, just really looking for a side hustle, and I wanted to actually build up my certifications a little bit. So that was a great place to do it at. It was kind of a great 9-to-5 accounting place. Like you went there, you left, work doesn't come home with you. You can't take none of the surveys home. So you could take no work home. So it was like, great. So I started doing a tax practice there, but not much of that. Like I always say, that's like my career. I was able to kind of clear my head, do a lot of studying. That was kind of one of my favorite places. I had got a lot of friends there. That was like a really cool place to just office full of accountants, and we just had a lot of fun looking at data and then talking to the economists about whatever, or getting yelled at them about why some financial statement doesn't make sense to them and it's throwing off their standard deviation or something.
But you didn't have any background in tax. You had experience in audit and you had experience in accounting and financials, and then you
can read. You can read. You can still study. But here's the great thing about our community, right? You start off with a basic tax return, and then you have people that's the one thing about being a CPA that's so great, is that people will help you. Like you call a CPA and you give them, as long as you're mildly competent, they'll tell you how to find the answer. So I had other people, my mentor, Lanciano, I could always call him if I ran into. I'm sure I asked him a bunch of ridiculous questions back then about like, where does this go in the tax software or whatever. That's the great thing about our profession. Like, we're all very helpful. I don't remember having a practitioner that wasn't like okay with sharing information, or like, hey, here's how you solve a problem. So you got a network, and that's also important too for people. Is like, if you have a really good network, and I did, people just help. Eventually, you figure it out.
Yeah. I forgot to tell the audience that how you and I met. So Jeff and I met at AI CPA Engage in 2023 when both of us were selected as AI CPA Outstanding Young CPAs.
Yes, and you're the most outstanding one, and I was behind you.
No.
Right.
I look at the picture. It's just so funny that everyone is so tall and then so big. I'm a little tiny one in the picture.
No, that I was like, that was a great, that was one of the, highlight career moment, right? Like, I wasn't really expecting that at all. I don't even know how we got there, but I think that's also a testament to the profession in that. And even just like me and you hooking up and, me telling you, I was like, yeah, I already know you moved to Boston and you got this. Is that it's a very helpful profession. I think it's actually easy to be successful here because everybody wants you to win a bit, right? So It's very, very helpful. You can build that network, that friendship or whatever. I just hope that all my friends aren't CPAs. I need some non-CPA friends. Like, if you have a party and it's all CPAs, I don't want it.
Well, but because you mentioned about network, you mentioned about you can reach out to people for any questions when you need to ask about tax. That's why I was, you and I, we network because we went to the AI CPAs Engage, and it was my first Engage ever, and it was so overwhelming.
Yeah, that conference can be that way because it gets so bigger every time. It was like smaller, so because I think they put a lot of conferences together, so Engage can be a bit. You got to know how to navigate it a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, you can get lost easily.
Yeah. But it's one of the go-to conferences. I mean, that Digital CPA are two, but it's a lot. it's a lot. You've sort of got to pre-schedule how you're going to do that conference. So I can imagine if you didn't know like how to pre-schedule. Yeah,
it could be tough. I actually did my homework before that. I highlight which section I wanted to go, who I wanted to reach out. I had to do all the homework in advance before I show up, and I still feel so overwhelmed.
Yeah. Now I will say this, that's not a conference where like I'm gonna send a high schooler or something by itself, like they, but for a practitioner, yeah, you got to think of it a bit like that.
Yeah, that's a cool one. So now I would like to understand how you change the name that you have initial name to now you change to the W2 group. Where that W2 group comes from, and why do you have number 2 in different color, in blue with the back?
Well, first of all, I'll tell you what sounds cooler, J. Wilson CPA or the W2 group. First of all, listen, I am not of the adage of that. Yeah, look, like I that whole name, last name thing, that is just not great marketing. Let's just throw that away. So the W2 group really is based on the fact that it's a play on my last name, right? So I'm Jeff Wilson II, right? And so it's just 2 Roman numerals. And then I'll tell you what happened, right? So I wanted 2 Roman numerals, and what happened was everybody kept calling us the we group. And I was like, man, because you can't put you can't type Roman numerals in. So everybody's the we group. No, it's not the we group, right? So I was like, we got to go to W2. But when I first, and here's a good business lesson. So when I first wanted the W2 group, I went to go get the new number. Somebody already had it. And they had nothing to do with accounting. I had to wait till they had forfeited or they didn't file something on time. I jumped on it. I was like, I need this name. It's like, you're not getting this one back. Yeah. But that's how we got the Roman numeral and the 2. That's where that came from.
Oh, that makes sense now.
Yeah.
Now I understand. It's so funny when I see W2, I was not able to link your last name with the W2. I thought when you start this group, it's just like a
you think I was thinking tax, right? See, it's a double play. It's a double play. If you know anything about me, I'm double playing something. I'm trying to get a twofer. I'm always looking for a two. So that was a twofer.
Oh, okay. Now it makes sense. Gotcha. Wow. You always like plan in advance on anything.
Yeah. Let's get. Yeah, so it was just a twofer. So I got the 2, number 2, and the Roman numeral. We're keeping all of it. We won't be forfeiting that name. Stan. No way.
No one will be able to get that name now because you want to keep that forever.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So when you start this group, what did you see the most challenge running this practice?
So the largest challenge, I don't think there was, it's entrepreneurship, right? So I think the challenges, remember my scope of what I was thinking at the time was much smaller. My view has evolved as small businesses have evolved, as us as practitioners have evolved, our need, it changed. So I really just was focusing on tax. That's just really what I was trying to do. But I would say that what's happened, some of it for good, some of it for bad. I'm not totally on board. Is that accountants? We are our client's trusted business advisor. So what ends up happening is our role just continues to grow in business. It just does. It doesn't get any smaller. It just continues to grow. We're the people that's looked at to have the business know-how, right? I always say this: clients have passion. We have the know-how. And so it's evolved more only because the client needs and expectations. And there's basically, the way I look at business, is small businesses, that or micro small business, there's a gap, right? And nobody knows how to fill that COO gap. Like small businesses they got a CEO because that's the owner. And then the accountant's sort of the CFO. And then who's the COO? And what ends up happening is, to me, I feel like some of the roles of the CFO and the COO keep getting merged closer and closer together. And it's today's modern accountant. If you could just get by with doing debit and credits, I think we all be happy. There would be no stress. But that's just not the nature of it, right? Like we're looked at for compliance, operations, cash flow. So it was not thought of to be what it is today. That was not what we were thinking at all. And so one of the toughest parts was, one, being able to educate ourselves, learn faster. and being able to really set yourself apart, which I think was part of the training, like, doing that. And that means adding value. We had to add value. And so we took a lot of training to make sure we added value past just saying debit this and credit that.
Yeah, I could. Yeah, I see. I see, because I see a lot of small, I would say not small, a lot of CPA practice, they face the challenge that how can they train the staff enough? Like, what is enough? How do you define enough?
I don't know if it's ever enough. That's the problem. It's never going to be enough, right? But I think you have to have a culture learning, right? And you, as the director, manager, you've got to spend the time that educate. You got to kind of set the standard for what you want to educate them. And for me, when I'm correcting staff mistakes, I'm not just Xing something out saying, "Oh, it should be." I'm saying, think about it, right? I'm always saying, think about it. Right. And what is in educating them on the business side of it? Me personally, I think the business side is what drives everything. So I don't try to teach from accounting to business. I teach from business to accounting.
I like it.
Why are we doing this? Because at the end of the day, the client does not truly care about how you got to that debit or credit. It's what happened on the business side, and you'll be a better accountant if you understand the business side of it. And I think that's always been me. Now, someone who's a purist debit and creditor that like loved intermediate, they may feel another way. I think when you get down to it, when you get to business, at the end of the day, you ask a CEO and a business owner, there's about 3 lines they care about: gross income, gross profit, net income. So the rest of all that, it sounds good. Get me to the business side of how this is. And I try to kind of teach my team, like, hey, you got to think about what they're really thinking about from that perspective. We need to make sure they're in compliance and they're doing it, reporting the right way. But think about it from the owner side. So I very rarely I know an internal, my auditor or accountant purview, but most of the time in small business, you've really got to look at it from the CEO, the business owner's perspective, and then use your knowledge to bring it back to what it translates to.
So now we can link back to the very beginning of the interview when you mentioned that to your CFO of your university, saying that you wanted to be a CFO, but now you're more like CEO running.
She hurt my dreams. Yeah, I was almost there. I promise. Yeah.
She's a great leader. She's a amazing leader.
Yeah.
You were so lucky to have her when you were in college. That was amazing.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Willie Huey was great. Is great. Yeah, she was. And that maybe the great thing about that is like what people is they see things in you don't see in yourselves, right? So I didn't see that. I thought I was CFO material. I really, really did. But I think I am. At least this is what I says in our engagement letter. But I don't look at everything from the lens of a debit, credit, accounting perspective, because it's much wider than that. So you got to have this wider perspective to be able to kind of say, okay, here's how we really need to think about this. Like, there's reporting, there's financial reporting, and then there's the aspect of what's going to happen after, right? Or how do they get there? So you can't just think about the compliance side. And that's sometimes accountants typically have a very narrow focus. So,
yeah. Well,
so entrepreneur business first, and then I'll put my CPA hat on when I, need to be there. So I think that's the thing I try to teach my staff is think of these things, not just from the perspective of debit and credit. Think of it, if you were a business owner, what would you do? And I think that's how you make the best accountants for what's to come, right? Because I think we're now in this place where public accounting and business and industry, at least on a small business market, is emerging a bit. So
yeah. And so at the beginning, you did mention that you also do a lot of things besides of just working at managing the W2 group. Can you share with us what are you doing now besides of just being an accountant?
Yeah, so I just want to confirm this is a safe space, right? It's a safe space. So, okay. So it is a safe space. Okay. So I'm also the founder and CEO of a software company called Govy Rates. And Govy Rates, but I would say this because it's a safe space because people are like, oh, you're doing all these things. No, I'm not. Right. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's all just accounting. right? It's just different genres. Like the way I look at accounting, it's just different genres. And so we created inside of the W2 group, we created a software that does cost accounting it basically does cost accounting for GAAP entities that do professional services. And what we saw is I'm really passionate about helping small businesses get more. And one of the things I saw is that small businesses had a lot of hard time kind of pricing their services, like getting it right. So I saw people with contracts that were short term and long term that weren't very profitable. And so we just decided to build something. I just decided I've been on a lot of programs where accounting advisor programs, whether that be for Intuit or some other software providers. And so you kind of learn a lot about what happens in the software market as far as like product development and then what kind of goes in it. You get an idea, right? So I would say that Intuit probably helped bite the bug, bit me with the tech bug, and is everything kind of is like dealing with my own accounting problems and then just understanding more and more about product and what that really means. I really got frustrated one day. I was actually there and I was telling them about the problem and they were like, that's a real problem, Jeff. But at the time they were like, that's a small segment problem. That'll take us a while to kind of deal with it. And I was like, I don't have a wow. I was like, I'm just that type of problem. Like, I really don't have because and I understood it was like, listen, this may affect 100,000 people out of the millions, that are on there. I was like, well, I'm just going to build it. They were like, well, let us know what you need. They were very helpful and sincere about like, we'll support you. And that's how I ended up building the software. But I had to take some time to like learn programming, and I would say I would not recommend that to anybody. That was like a really bold bet there to kind of just wake up in the morning and say, "Hey, I'm gonna go be a software CEO guy." I don't do it, but it broadens your scope and kind of what you do. I think always your skills are evolving, so it's another skill that I've evolved and kind of been able to lean into.
Yeah, and so you're not just the founder of this software company, you also as a managing director of the family law forensic accountants as well, and also as a contractor at arbitrator as well. You're so busy. You work a lot. Now, the question that I want to know is that how do you find time for yourself? How do you have the life work balance?
Yeah, so I have a life, by the way. I think you one thing is I pretty much run on a schedule, right? I try to have fun when I'm working, when I'm working, right? I'm very heads down. I don't look at emails when I'm working. I'm straight to it. And then but I'm always trying to have fun, right? Like, so if you're in the office with me, you probably would get irritated with me, quite frankly, Rosey. I'm always cracking jokes and I'm having a good time. But the other thing is like really I'm on a pretty rigid schedule. So that means like I'm very precise about when I go to sleep and when I wake up. So that's kind of one thing. You are a little bit more disciplined, right? But I'll tell you this. I play video games every week. I hope my son never sees this. I'm the man in Fortnite. So I'm knocking people off in Fortnite. I'm a very avid NBA 2K video game player. I play MetaQuest. That's my favorite thing. So I'm always boxing there. I'm knocking out all opponents if anybody wants to sign up. And typically right about this time, and if it wasn't for this, I'll be at the basketball court or something like that after it's over. So I say that to say I play when I play and then I work when I work, right? You got to have that. Like, it's your outlet too, right? So that's the best thing about it. Like, I'll say having a kid helped me do that. But so I know when I'm out, I'm out. And pretty much I'm out every weekend. But I do work. Sometimes I do have to work late hours. But I try to make sure some of the things I do doesn't feel like work, right? Like, I think that we all should, when I'm not doing anything, I may just be actually reading something, business related or something accounting related. That's kind of what I may do in my free time when I'm just, moping around the house or something. But so that kind of keeps me to breast what's going on, but it's just really having a schedule, kind of staying with it. So there's my fun time. I don't let anybody, if you call me at Saturday at 7 or 8 a.m., I'm not going to answer. I may answer, but you're going to hear me playing MetaQuest. I'm just letting you know that now. Like, you can be as serious as you want, but this is what I'm going to be doing. So you got to have those kind of times set out, and then a time for your family and friends. So you just got to kind of set those boundaries. They're not all. You have to be flexible with them. That's the one thing I've learned. I try to be rigid when I'm like, oh, this is it. It doesn't always go that way, but no, yeah, I got a pretty cool life.
Wow, I have no idea how can you even have time to play video games. That's just crazy seeing what you are doing now. And then you're telling me that I don't know if I can believe that.
Yeah. I would tell you there's a couple of video game victims I could call out. They'll tell you I'm winning. Yeah. So no, yeah, I mean you got and I play with my family. I go to my mom's house and my cousin and we stick up, and so we get the joysticks and let's get going. So, but you kind of need that, right? You got to have that balance. I think that's the one thing that people miss, like that balance, right? And I don't care if video games or whatever. It's just having the balance of like, okay, turn it off. It does have to turn off. The best thing that I do is get away from it, right? Like, let me just get away from this. I come up with better ideas when I get away. If I'm stuck just talking this and this and doing work, my best ideas don't come well. But when I get away, I can kind of like, okay, here's what.
That's good.
It'll come to me while I'm, maybe I'm playing basketball or something, and I'll be like, that's what we need to do. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Take that approach.
I love that. I like how you can just turn on and turn off. A lot of people, they cannot do that. Like, I cannot do that. Yeah. Sometimes I really
you gotta just walk away. You just gotta walk away. It's at the end of the day, you just gotta walk away and know that you're going to be better. I had to learn this because I was definitely a burnout artist, meaning that I would work so hard and burn out. I would burn out at the end of the year. I'd just be completely burnt. I learned over my career not to let that happen by one, setting boundaries, and two, just walking away. I understand what needs to be done, but even if I try to get that extra, that squeeze that less bit out of me, it's worthless. So now I'm more like, I'm done. If I'm burnt out, if I'm tired, if I don't get, like the other day, maybe I did get 4 hours of sleep. The next day, no, I'm not working a full day. I'm done. That's just what it's going to be. Like, no, you have to do that. And I hope in employers, I'm saying it as principal, but if my staff, they tell me I was up all night and I'm Jeff, I'm done. They're done. I tell them get out. And if I see that they're burnt out, I will kick them out of my office. Go home. You're no good to anybody burnt out. Bye. And I'm like, some of them don't like.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
I don't want your leave slip. Just beat it because you're no good to anybody.
Yeah. It's just funny. Sometimes I had very weird dreams about work. I was like, wow. So it means that I went to bed, but my mind still constantly working and thinking about what I did during the day.
Now, I'll tell you this before, like, either I'll read before I go to sleep or I'm going to watch a cartoon. Like, I'm serious enough at work. I don't watch serious TV shows. I don't want it. It's all like, no.
That's good. I want to stop.
Give me some Dragon Ball Z or some Disney related. That's what I'm going to. I don't want nothing serious. I was serious. I'm serious in the office. After that, I don't want to. That's not cool.
That's good. You can separate yourself from work. Yeah. So that's a very good thing.
Yeah, you got to just keep trying, and it's just a great release valve. Like, oh yeah, I'm done with that.
Yeah, I know. We talked so much about your career, about your experience. So before we finish this interview, I would like to see if you can provide some main tips, like maybe top three tips and advice for young professionals to advance their career in accounting profession.
So I would say the first thing to advance your career in accounting is this: practice excellence. Practice excellence. Just try. Some days you're going to get it right and you're going to be excellent. Some days you're going to get it wrong. You just need to practice, meaning just try to be excellent at what you do. That's the first thing. Some days, even me, I'm great. Some days I'm not so great, right? But the habit of excellence is probably the one of the first things. The second thing is to build a network, but I would say build relationships, and that doesn't mean just sending a bunch of people LinkedIn, like cultivate them, right? Like call people, ask about them. Like I met a relationship I had when I was at KPMG, and the head of HR and diversity was John Honor at the time, and John wasn't a partner. I didn't have to work with him, but we cultivated that relationship, and I still talk to him this day. John is age I won't remember, but the whole point of it is I cultivated that relationship, right? And it served us both well. Great friend of mine. And you got to do that when you're coming out of college, right? And when you're in college, just try to cultivate. So it's not just finding as many people as you can, more than it is developing relationships, getting to know people, and being really, really genuine. That would be that. And then there's some reality that people don't tell you about this. And you got to be okay with knowing that you'll never know enough and you'll never stop learning. Be a continuous learner. That's what's really our profession is all about, continuously learning. We are the computers that are forced to update manually. That's what we if we don't just get to hit the software update button and go. We're forced to actually do it. So, get comfortable and learning. And I mean, when I say get comfortable, meaning understand how you learn and learn how to learn faster, better, and so it's not as taxing on you, right? The one thing I learned over a period of time is I learned how to study. I didn't know how to study when I first was in college, and then I didn't probably know how to study well. Maybe to my last years, I knew how to study and how I picked up and retained information. That's what the last thing I would say is like get comfortable in being a continuous learner. That's just what we do. We learn. We have to do it manually, and you need to figure out the smoothest way to update your hard drive.
I love those tips. Those 3 main tips are super helpful for any young professions who are just trying to advance this career. And I hope audience will learn not just with those 3 tips, but also many other tips throughout our conversation, and also your story about auditing prison.
Yeah, did it big.
Thank you so much, Jeff, for the interview today. I appreciate your time.
Rosey, thanks for having me. It's always great talking to you.
Thank you.